Is the dam about to burst for the Democrats over Joe Biden? Senators are now questioning his re-election bid. And tonight, calls to quit from Hollywood. The actor George Clooney, a major donor and fundraiser for Biden's campaign, has urged his friend to get out of the race. And another senior Democrat falls short of backing the president.
To the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
Questions over Biden's future have loomed large at the NATO summit hosted by the president in Washington. So too, questions about NATO against the threat of a future war against Russia. We'll look at the state of defence spending for the UK and the rest of the alliance. Also tonight, Alec Baldwin on trial. The actor insists he's committed no crime as he faces an involuntary manslaughter charge over the death of Helena Hutchins on the film set Rust. Plus, my interview with the activist Malala Yousafzai, including this message for the new Labour government.
We'll be watching them. I hope that they prioritise their commitment to Afghan girls in their 100-day plan, in their foreign policy.
And Houston, we don't have a problem. 2 astronauts deny they're stranded in space after being forced to extend their time up in orbit. That's all coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Good evening. All that to come, but first we start with that developing story. Police say a man wanted over a triple murder in Bushey in Hertfordshire has been found. A major police manhunt was launched for 26-year-old Kyle Clifford after 3 women were killed in a suspected crossbow attack. Tonight, officers say he was traced to a location in North London and is currently receiving medical treatment, having been found with injuries. The victims have been named as 25-year-old Louise Hunt, 28-year-old Hannah Hunt, and 61-year-old Carol Hunt, the wife and 2 of the daughters of the racing commentator John Hunt. Police believe the attack was a targeted incident. Sky's Ashna Hurinag has this report.
Almost 24 hours after the manhunt started, this was the moment police found Kyle Clifford, stretchered out of a cemetery in Enfield in North London by police and paramedics. This was the picture they released of Clifford on Wednesday morning in an effort to locate him. The street search started when police found the bodies of 3 women at a house in a quiet suburban town of Bushey in Hertfordshire. The victims of a senseless crossbow attack were a mother and her daughters. 25-year-old Louise, her 28-year-old sister Hannah, and their mother, 61-year-old Carol Hunt. The 3 women are the wife and daughters of Sky Sports racing broadcaster John Hunt. Police and paramedics were called just after 7 on Tuesday evening, and neighbours have been shaken by events.
I got calls from other people saying that something tragic had happened. I only learned this morning that there was actually 3 women who had been brutally killed, which is horrific.
Safia lives opposite the family and watched last night as emergency services descended on the street.
We were all very anxious. We were on edge all night, unable to sleep until the very early hours of the morning because we're just seeing a flood of blue lights, helicopters, sirens everywhere. We were all very scared.
Flowers have been laid at the cordon throughout the day by locals and friends.
Honestly, one of the loveliest girl I ever knew. Always had a smile and very positive and hardworking. So genuinely a really, really sweet person.
Many in the area knew Louise as the proud owner of a dog grooming business, with one telling Sky News she was the sweetest, kindest, most gentle person with the most loving family. Louise would send me pictures of my dog asleep during grooming. That's how much of a wonderful and relaxing person Louise was.
It's understood Clifford left the British Army at the end of 2022 after a brief period of service, and up until recently he was working as a private security guard.
Clifford is now being treated in hospital as a family tonight is broken after losing 3 of their dearest members. Ashna Harinag, Sky News in Bushey.
And Ashna joins us live now. And I mean, Ashna, the community is clearly rattled by this and left devastated with so many questions still unanswered.
Yeah, that's right, Yalda. This is a very leafy town, and they have bared witness here, the people, to horrors that they can barely comprehend. These were people that they knew, that they would see every day if they walked down the street, going to the shops, going about their daily business. And I think you get a sense there from the people that we spoke to who knew some of those women, particularly Louise, that they loved them deeply. They called repeatedly, we kept hearing the words, they were the sweetest people, the loveliest people. And these were just, of course, three women that were relaxing at home all together. And some of the cards that have been continuously being placed at the cordon today, along with flowers, one of them, I think sums it up. I wish none of this happened. I wish I could hug you all, it says, and tell you how much you meant to me. We heard from Hertfordshire Police earlier today that this was a targeted incident. It's understood that Carl Clifford knew the family in some way. The exact relationship, though, is yet to be established. He, meanwhile, remains, we understand, at the Royal London Hospital after he was found with injuries as he was taken away from that cemetery in North London. The Home Secretary tonight has said that she is appalled and shocked, but ultimately everyone here is deeply disturbed at this horrifying tragedy that ultimately took the lives of these three women.
A heartbreaking situation. Ashna, thank you so much for bringing us up to date there. Now, what would it take for Joe Biden to call it quits? Up until now, the US president has ignored those urging him to step down. But the noise is getting louder and louder, and it's no longer just politicians, but the biggest figures in pop culture too. George Clooney. Yep, that George Clooney. Today, he wrote a scathing op-ed in the New York Times. He expressed love for his, quote, friend, Joe Biden, but said he has no chance of winning against Donald Trump and should step aside. According to Clooney, every senator and member of Congress he's spoken to privately agrees it's time for Joe to go. Senior figures like Nancy Pelosi have said it's up to Biden, but that he should make a decision. Right now, 8 Democratic representatives have publicly said Biden can't continue. And we've now heard the first senator in the party question his fitness for office. The timing of it all couldn't be worse, right as Joe Biden hosts world leaders at the NATO summit in Washington. Obviously, the odds of a resignation right now are incredibly remote. But are we starting to see a snowball effect? A combination of politicians and celebrities ganging up on a president looking increasingly vulnerable. Here's our US correspondent James Matthews with his report from Washington.
On every stage, he's the president under performance review. This was the NATO family photo. Even here, Biden's political survival was center stage.
Thank you.
President Biden, is Nancy Pelosi still behind you, sir?
The clenched fist signifies the struggle for survival. Now, with added star quality, Hollywood's George Clooney, who hosted a fundraiser for the president last month. It raised questions at the time when the president's predecessor, Barack Obama, took his hand to exit the stage. Now Clooney, a lifelong Democrat, has called on the president to step down, saying he risks losing the House and Senate as well as the presidency. In a withering critique in the New York Times, he writes, "The one battle he cannot win is the fight against time. None of us can. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe Big Effing Deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate."
We cannot allow the alliance to fall behind. The fact is that so many of my let me put it this way. I'm very pleased that today...
all eyes are on the president and how he performs. All ears are on the power brokers in his party.
Should the president step aside?
An influential voice spelled trouble for Biden. A former House Speaker and longtime ally declined to offer full backing.
Does he have your support to be the head of the Democratic ticket?
As long as the president has it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
But Biden's decision is to stay on. Whether that holds will be tested in a set-piece news conference scheduled for Thursday. For Democrats divided, there are no easy answers.
4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years!
And James joins us live now. And I mean, James, a couple of things. First of all, listening there to Nancy Pelosi say we're waiting for him to make a decision and time is running out. I mean, he's made it very clear what his decision is. And the second thing, I mean, that George Clooney op-ed, reading it, it was scathing and just so brutal.
Yeah, Yalda, I think that George Clooney thought piece skewers Biden. I mean, Clooney is a lifelong Democrat. He's an American icon, trusted with an audience that will listen to his message. A man who has no animus towards Joe Biden. Indeed, he hosted and organised that fundraiser for the president just 3 weeks ago. So he's got nothing against Biden, no reason to put the boot in unnecessarily. But he has answered the question that all of America has been asking for the past month. Was the Joe Biden we saw on that TV debate stage the real Joe Biden? Clooney's answer to that is emphatic. He very much is the Biden that we saw, the Biden who trailed off at the end of sentences, who didn't appear able to hold a thought. So it is bad news for Biden coming from this trusted Hollywood star. I mean, it is a rough script for Biden to get to grips with, a voice above the political sphere, but one that will register with voters at large and Democrats, divided Democrats in particular.
Yeah, and yet we're still seeing the bulk of the party saying that they're going to stick with Joe. I mean, you know, is there a feeling that they are being almost irresponsible by doing that? On the one hand, they keep talking about this existential threat, you know, that they need to deal with whatever comes. They need to ensure that Donald Trump does not win in November. On the other hand, there's this strange sense of entitlement here, or even we could even call it arrogance, of sort of not confronting this issue around Biden.
Yeah, I think the arrogance, the stubbornness, the ego, the ignorance to what he has called an existential threat to democracy is on the part of Joe Biden. That's certainly the way that people who want him to jump would see it. And their concern is that he is simply not listening. Nancy Pelosi on MSNBC's morning news show, Morning Joe this morning, that was interesting, kind of came out of nowhere. For her, one of the party grandees, opinion formers, one of the voices that the Democrats listen to, for her to go on TV and give anything less than 100% support to Joe Biden speaks volumes. Interesting that she chose to do it on TV, picked up the megaphone rather than use the phone to an old colleague and a longtime ally. You know, Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, the other key figure in the Democrat Party, they are the party grandees who pulled Joe Biden through in 2020. Jim Clyburn in particular with the black vote at a time when Biden looked down and out, but it's different. You know, they clearly see it as different now. Clyburn was saying today, in answer to a question, well, you have to ask Joe Biden. He made the point that it's a decision for Joe Biden, so his support seems to be creaking as well, dealing with different times, dealing with different challenges, and certainly dealing with a different candidate. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of Democrats in the House, he is going to go, we are told, to see Biden, to relay the concerns of the Democrat Party about his determination to continue to stand. We'll see if that has any effect. Yalda, what may also certainly play in to the matter is this Thursday news conference he has lined up. Much at stake for him, just in terms of getting through that, taking questions, being able to operate unscripted. So news conference on Thursday, an extended NBC interview on Monday, all hoops that Joe Biden needs to get to. But I think in terms of the timing, the key thing is NATO. Nancy Pelosi talking today, telling Democrats, you know, hold your thunder. If you have criticism, keep them to yourself, making the point that they need to get NATO in this week out of the way. I think things may well accelerate when NATO leaders have left town, and much will depend, as I say, on these kind of set-piece occasions. But for every set-piece occasion that Joe Biden gets through, there is another one lined up, another equally high-stakes event that could ultimately do for him.
Yeah, indeed. James, thank you so much. Now, Sir Keir Starmer had his first big moment on the world stage as Prime Minister today as leaders gathered in Washington for a summit marking the 75th anniversary of NATO. It couldn't have come at a more crucial time. Questions over spending commitments, renewed Russian airstrikes, and even the potential for a new American president to come in and tear up the rulebook. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, is there in Washington.
A newly minted Prime Minister, fresh from victory and now on the world stage.
The Right Honourable Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Here to take his place for another celebration, NATO's 75th anniversary.
Prime Minister, good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
And here to reassure this leader, Britain remains steadfast when it comes to supporting Ukraine.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for looking after Defence Secretary the other day.
Thank you very much.
What has changed is the flurry of activity. The new Defence Secretary's already been to Kyiv. Arriving at the summit from meetings with counterparts to join other world leaders, this will feel a long way from the UK campaign trail.
Very good bilateral meetings that we've had an opportunity to make sure that those relationships are reset, for me to be able to say that our position on the world stage, leading on issues like defence and security, on climate change and on energy are so important. So a really good opportunity. But now we go on and do the work in Council.
This NATO gathering designed to both celebrate the longevity of the alliance and show strength and solidarity with Ukraine. Allies agreeing Kyiv's path to NATO membership is now irreversible. Keir Starmer's own path to power now putting him at the right-hand side of the US president. It was but a week ago that we were with Sir Keir Starmer in Wales at a farm for one of his last election rallies. Fast forward a few days and he's here now at NATO in Washington, rubbing shoulders with world leaders. So much has changed for him in but a few days, and it's changed for all of us too. But what hasn't changed is his approach to NATO and Ukraine. In many ways, Sir Keir Starmer is continuity Sunak, with the new Prime Minister promising a cast iron guarantee to lift defence spending to 2.5% of GDP. What the new Prime Minister won't do is say when he'll meet the target, unlike his predecessor. But in an increasingly uncertain world, continuity from this man warmly welcomed. This, then, a good start. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Washington.
Well, Beth was talking about defence spending there. Let's just take a deeper look at those spending commitments by NATO countries. Now, the UK is currently on track to spend just over 2.3% of their GDP on defence this year, with Keir Starmer under pressure to confirm a timetable for the UK's boost to the 2.5% target. 10 years ago, NATO members agreed to commit 2% of their national GDP to defence spending. To hit Labour's larger target, however, they'd have to increase current spending by more than £20 billion. Looking at the bigger picture, the UK is one country who's set to meet NATO's guideline, particularly outperforming the likes of, say, Spain and Canada. The UK also spends more than Germany, France and the Netherlands, all three teetering just over that 2% benchmark. But it still dwarfs in comparison to NATO's big spenders, Poland and the United States. Well, let's discuss all of this with our US correspondent, Mark Stone, who's outside the White House. And Mark, good to see you. We're talking there about all of that defence spending. You know, you'll remember, and you've reported on this, how much Donald Trump spoke about increase in spending by those NATO countries. And he's said that even now in his campaigns. Look, you know, I have no problem with NATO, but let's play fair.
Yeah, and I wondered whether you'd ask me that, and it's absolutely true. I mean, he takes a huge amount of credit from his last presidency. His style, his pressure, his threats was, so he says, what prompted these countries to spend more, to increase their defence spending. Why should, so he said, the Americans put so much money into NATO, and you guys in Europe are all freeloading. It's true, and I spoke to diplomats last night when at a meeting who were clear that, yes, Donald Trump should take some of the credit for the increased spending, but by no means all the credit, because remember, a lot of European countries were prompted to spend more precisely because Putin invaded Ukraine. They were spooked by that. They realised that they were not spending nearly enough. So it's only partly true to say that Donald Trump's unique style in his first presidency prompted countries, excuse me, to spend more. It is partly, obviously, because of what Putin did as well. Yalda, I think what has been clear to me over the course of today, a couple of things. First of all, Keir Starmer comes to Washington in a relatively unique position compared to all the other leaders. He is in a position of political strength. He carries a political confidence with him that many other Western leaders can't carry. You've already been talking about Joe Biden and all his woes with James. Look at Emmanuel Macron in France. He's in a really tricky position. Look at Olaf Scholz in Germany. His coalition is by no means stable, and yet this new guy, Keir Starmer, comes here with this whopping majority. And so for once, for the first time in a long time, Britain has a confidence, and he will carry that confidence, that political confidence, into the Oval Office in a short time, where he will have that bilateral meeting with President Biden.
Mark, I spoke earlier to the US ambassador to NATO, and we'll be showing our viewers that in a moment. And I asked her different scenarios when it came to Donald Trump, and she said, look, we're not focused on, sort of a hypothetical scenario. We have to focus on the now and what we need to do in particular for Ukraine. But I guess you and I have also talked about the elephant in that room. Surely on the sidelines, these conversations were being had, especially given this embattled president. I mean, we saw there in that family photo people yelling out questions about his future.
Yeah, of course she says they're focused on the now, but that's honestly disingenuous. They're not. They're focused on what might happen next. She's American, but the other 31 member countries here, of course they're focusing on the now, but they're also wondering what happens next. They see what we all see in President Biden. They see his insecurity, they see his vulnerability, and they see Donald Trump down the line, and they wonder, as we all do, what Trump 2.0 looks like, what it means for NATO, what it means for Ukraine, for that war, the war he says he will be able to solve in a day, what it means for perhaps capitulating to Vladimir Putin. No one really knows quite what Trump 2.0 would look like. He blusters, he bluffs, he uses all sorts of rhetoric on the campaign trail. When you talk to his advisors behind the scenes, they are much more nuanced about what Trump 2.0 might look like. And indeed, Western diplomats are split as well. Some hold an existential view of a second Trump presidency, others not so much. Yes, domestically, they do agree, I think, that a second Trump presidency would splinter America. But beyond that, he is not. He's a guy who wants to win, not lose. He doesn't necessarily want to burn the global house down. I don't know how true that is, but certainly it is the case that they are looking beyond Biden to a potential Trump presidency and trying to future-proof or Trump-proof the war in Ukraine, make sure that they have got the weapons they need now. Remember the delay because of Congress, that was all held up because of Trumpian politicians in terms of getting weapons to Ukraine. That's been passed now, so weapons are getting in. Future-proof Ukraine, allow Ukraine to win that fight against Russia before potentially Trump takes office. So an awful lot to discuss here. It's been hard to know at times which thing to focus on. Is it Trump? Is it Biden and his woes? Or is it, as President Zelensky said last night, forget November, stop looking at November, look at the now, help us now?
Yeah, indeed, a cry from a desperate man. Mark, thank you so much. So, just how secure is the future of the NATO alliance, and would the United States remain as committed to Ukraine under a possible second Trump presidency, which is exactly what Mark was just talking about? Well, earlier I spoke to Julianne Smith, a US ambassador to NATO. Have a listen.
We are focused right now on what the alliance is doing in very pragmatic ways for Ukraine. We are not focused on predicting what could happen in any election on either side of the Atlantic. Look, NATO has been around for 75 years. We have coped with a variety of political transitions on both sides of the Atlantic for over 7 decades. I think allies here feel confident that they can deal with whatever change could come in any country that might be facing an election. So we are focused on taking those pragmatic steps that will ensure that Ukraine has what it needs now for pushing Russia out of its territory, but also for the future to help it move closer to the alliance.
The question then is, despite all the efforts of the last 2.5 years and all the weapons that have arrived in Ukraine, the Ukrainians have remained frustrated and said that they need more. And they certainly aren't, at this point in time, able to push back on Russia's advances.
Well, the U.S. supplemental, which provided over $60 billion of support to Ukraine, was delayed. There was a 6-month delay, and during that time, we had instances where the Ukrainians were forced to actually ration munitions. And so there were some shortages. But now that that has gone through, the Ukrainians are getting what they need. European allies are also stepping up and providing additional forms of assistance. And as President Biden announced last night, 5 countries have stepped up to provide new air defense systems for Ukraine so that they can protect their citizens and their cities against these indiscriminate attacks on civilians and things like children's hospitals. So we do believe that the assistance now that is flowing is making a difference, and we hope that it will continue to enable the Ukrainians to have victories on the battlefield.
We saw those horrendous attacks a few days ago, including that one on the children's hospital where the most vulnerable and the sickest were. Can you guarantee, though, that those sorts of delays won't happen again in the future?
Again, what we're seeing is every nation stepping up with additional forms of assistance, whether it's humanitarian or financial or security assistance to Ukraine. Another interesting thing that's going to happen here in Washington over the next 2 days is the 20-plus countries that have signed bilateral security agreements with Ukraine will come together to sign a compact reassuring President Zelensky about not just their support today, but their support over the next 10 years. Many countries have signed these agreements, including the United Kingdom, including the United States, and even Japan has signed such an agreement. So this is a combination this week of NATO support and new initiatives for Ukraine, but also bilateral agreements with Ukraine as well. And I think that gives the people of Ukraine the assurance that we're here to stay the course.
How do you future-proof NATO, though? Because we have in the past heard President Trump say that, or threaten at least, that he would leave the alliance. He's also most recently said that Europeans need to play fair and pay up.
Well, look, on the defense spending across the alliance, 10 years ago, the alliance made a commitment that every ally should spend 2% of their GDP on defense. When allies made that pledge in 2014, only 3 allies met the target. But today, 10 years later, we're announcing here at the summit, 23 allies not only meet the target of 2%, but are stretching well beyond it. The United Kingdom is talking about going to 2.5. Many Nordic countries, many Eastern European countries, and of course the United States are spending more than 2%. And those that aren't there yet have a plan to get there soon. So defense spending across the alliance is on the rise, and we are seeing important contributions to national defense budgets that are going to have a real impact on this alliance over the long term.
And just finally, Ambassador, I guess, you talk about the bridge to NATO and assisting Ukraine. Would the more fearless and brave thing to do have been to make certain concessions and just given them an invitation on this 75th anniversary?
Well, Well, two thoughts on that. We will not be issuing a proper invitation to Ukraine for full-fledged membership at this summit. However, when you see the declaration come out from the summit, you'll see clear wording that Ukraine's future is in NATO and it's on an irreversible path to NATO membership, no question, across the alliance. But there are two things that we want to focus on. First and foremost, we've got to get Russia out of Ukrainian territory, and that's the immediate focus of all allies. And secondly, the reality is that to join the alliance, certain reforms are required. Ukrainians are making every effort possible to undertake those necessary reforms, but they still have some work to do, and they'll be the first to tell you that. So we're focused on those two paths, helping them prevail on the battlefield, helping them undertake the necessary reforms, and I have no doubt that they will eventually become members of this alliance.
And I just want to ask, Ambassador, before you go, Donald Trump said he could resolve this conflict in 24 hours. Do you believe that Ukraine and the West should sit down with Russia and talk?
We believe that that decision rests in the hands of President Zelensky. The president of Ukraine needs to determine the conditions under which he is willing to sit down at the table and negotiate with Russia. We have said time and time again that we believe that this will ultimately be settled through some sort of negotiation, but we are not going to dictate the terms, and we want to see a good faith effort on the part of the Russians. Right now, there's no indication that President Putin is interested in peace, that he's interested in bringing about an end to this war that he alone started. So we will continue to support Ukraine, we will continue to support them in their peace efforts, and stand united with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
That's Julianne Smith, the US ambassador to NATO. You're watching The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Still to come on the programme, the story that rocked Hollywood and shocked the world. We'll have the latest from New Mexico. Alec Baldwin's trial begins over the death of Aliana Hutchins.
When you cover big, tense protests, there's almost always a moment when the atmosphere changes. There's a different noise, and you start to smell tear gas in the air.
As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. It can be incredibly surreal being swept up in their world, but we try to give you an honest sense of how these people really are.
When we spoke to the fishermen down in Cornwall, all the politics from Westminster was a million miles away. This was about their jobs, their livelihoods.
Welcome back to the programme. Let's just show you these latest pictures that have just come in. We can show you these images of Keir Starmer, the newly elected Labour leader, meeting there with Mike Johnson, the House Speaker in the United States. And there you can see him shaking hands with Hakeem Jeffries, who's the minority leader of the US House of Representatives for the Democrats. He's meeting these two leaders in Washington, as we've been reporting. It's the NATO summit marking the 75th anniversary and the 75th year of NATO. And Keir Starmer has been rubbing shoulders with global leaders for the past few days. The timing couldn't be better for him, really. He was elected last week, and this week he is on the world stage meeting with President Joe Biden and various others. You can see the new Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, embracing Hakeem Jeffries there as well. So the new leaders in the United Kingdom meeting their significant leaders, Democratic leaders in Washington as well. They're there for the NATO summit. Now, it's a story that's gripped Hollywood and truly shocked the world. 3 years ago, a weapon in the hands of actor Alec Baldwin on the film set of a Western discharged and killed Halyna Hutchins, a young and talented cinematographer. Mr. Baldwin's trial has begun today, charged with involuntary manslaughter. His lawyers maintain he committed no crime. Martha Kellner reports.
Mr. Baldwin, how are you feeling today?
How could he possibly be feeling going from a movie role to a manslaughter trial?
Mr. Baldwin, are you responsible for Halyna Hutchins' death? Mr. Baldwin, will you take the stand?
They're questions that will be answered over the next 2 weeks. A photograph of Halyna Hutchins was shown to the jury by the prosecution in front of the church set where the cinematographer was fatally shot. Baldwin, they say, caused her death.
He pointed the gun at another human being, cocked the hammer, and pulled that trigger in reckless disregard for Miss Hutchins' safety.
Baldwin, supported in court by his wife Hilaria, actor brother Stephen and sister Beth. He previously denied pulling the trigger or knowing the gun contained live bullets.
On a movie set, you're allowed to pull the trigger. So even if he intentionally pulled the trigger like the prosecutor just demonstrated, that doesn't make him guilty of homicide. He did not know or have any reason to know that gun was loaded with a live bullet.
The court was shown body cam footage of the frantic efforts to save Halyna Hutchins. Her mother and sister, who live in Ukraine, are represented by lawyer Gloria Allred.
Are they pleased that Mr. Baldwin is in court?
Well, they want to know the truth, so they're pleased that there's a criminal justice process. I would like to add, he has never called the parents or the sister of Halyna Hutchins to say, I am the one who held the gun that contained the live bullet that shot and killed your daughter, your sister. I am sorry.
One big question looming over this trial is whether Alec Baldwin himself will take the stand. It would add some Hollywood drama to proceedings, but for his defence, it's a potentially risky move.
The media glare is familiar for Baldwin, but he never imagined his career would ultimately bring him here, not just in the spotlight, but under the microscope. Martha Kellner, Sky News, New Mexico.
Now, the UN has expressed deep concern after the Israeli military issued more evacuation orders in Gaza, telling people to leave Gaza City and head into the central Gaza Strip. It comes after at least 25 people were killed at a school in Gaza. The area was being used as a shelter when an Israeli strike hit tents where displaced families had been living. Some of those families had been watching a football match. The Israeli military says the incident occurred when it struck a Hamas fighter who took part in the 7th of October raid on Israel with a precise munition, is what Israel is saying. It said it was reviewing reports civilians were harmed. Now, the activist Malala Yousafzai has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. She spoke to me earlier on a visit to London where she was raising awareness for the plight of Afghan girls living under the rule of the Taliban. Here's our conversation.
It breaks my heart when I think that 11 years later, since my UN speech, we are witnessing a world where there's a country where girls are banned from education after grade 6. This is shocking. I thought this would be a story of the past. But it's unimaginable that even in 2024, we are witnessing a time when girls have been barred from schools for more than 3 years in Afghanistan. And they're not only missing their classes, but some of them are seeing a very dark future ahead of them. At the UN, I saw so many leaders support me, stand by me, and make this commitment that they care about girls' education. But when I look at what we're witnessing right now, it really disappoints me that we have not been able to protect the right to education for Afghan girls for the past 3 years. So this is a very urgent and critical time for me. We cannot wait any longer. The Afghan girls and activists are calling us to take action. So my hope is that we raise awareness about what is happening in Afghanistan and do more for them, make it an urgent and critical issue, stand in solidarity with the Afghan women and girls, and ask our leaders that they do not make any compromises on the rights of women and girls, and that this should be a top priority for them.
But they have made compromises, haven't they? I mean, if you look at the recent actions of the UN, where they held talks with the Taliban and shut Afghan women and girls out from the talks. Whenever I've traveled to Afghanistan, certainly after the Taliban takeover, Afghan girls who go to secret schools, for example, Afghan women who have been pushed out of the public eye, say to me they feel abandoned and they feel betrayed.
I was watching the Doha talks, and of course these are conversations between the UN envoys and the Taliban officials. And it was shocking to me that Afghan women and girls were excluded from those conversations. The civil society was excluded from that conversation. It is important because the future of Afghan women is decided in their absence. This should be completely unacceptable. We know that we have principles. We are committed to gender equality. We talk about feminist principles. These are not principled engagements if women are excluded. And Afghan women who have fought so hard for their rights in the past 20 years, and especially in the past 3 years since the Taliban took over, they're fighting for their rights. They're putting their lives at risk. We have heard so many stories of women being beaten, women being put in prisons. We need to hear these women very clearly that they cannot be excluded from those rooms. It has sent a message of betrayal to Afghan women. Going forward, I think it's really critical for all country members to ensure that they put the voices of Afghan women at the front, that they follow their lead, and that Afghan women are included in all the conversations where decisions about their future are made.
Afghans, as a result, many are on the run because of the economic situation, and many whose fathers are like yours want their girls to get an education, so they leave the country. Afghans make up now one of the highest number of asylum seekers that cross the channel into the UK. We have a new Labour government in this country. What is your message to them? We often hear about resolving issues in the source country. What can be done?
This is a great opportunity for the new government in the UK, that they stand by their values and stand with the girls and women of Afghanistan. I know that the Labour Party is committed to gender equality and humanity, so I believe that it's a great opportunity for them to share their solidarity with Afghan women, make sure that they're holding the Taliban to account, and they're not engaging with the Taliban with the exclusion of the women, and they protect the right to education and the right to work for women and girls in Afghanistan. I think we will be watching them. I hope that they prioritize their commitment to Afghan girls in their 100-day plan, in their foreign policy.
Do you think that they should be talking to the Taliban on some level because they are the de facto government in the country?
The conversation is never about whether they should talk to the Taliban or not. The conversation has always been about principled engagements with the Taliban. And there can be no principled engagements if women and girls and if the civil society are excluded. And that's the point we're trying to highlight, that women and girls' rights have to be on the agenda. You cannot exclude that topic, and you have to make sure that the women are present there. Afghanistan is a very diverse country. We need people from all the ethnic backgrounds to be there. We need women to be there, because they are making decisions about the future of Afghanistan, and women are half of the population. You cannot have that future when half of the population is excluded from those conversations.
It's been almost 3 years since the Taliban takeover. Do you think that world leaders who talk the talk with you, but do you think they are stepping up, or are they just giving you lip service?
When I look back at the past 3 years, and when I look at the fact that it has been more than 1,000 days that girls above grade 6 have not seen a classroom, it does disappoint me, and it does make me feel that leaders are not doing enough. But then on the other hand, what gives me optimism and a bit of hope is the countries who have been talking about codifying gender apartheid, who have been talking about helping Afghan women and girls. But there are many more countries who need to be held accountable, and I do want to push the UK government as well to do more, and I hope that the new Prime Minister and the new government will be prioritising doing something for Afghan women and girls.
You've also talked about the plight of Palestinians in Gaza. How concerned are you about the instability that we're seeing, the fact that education has been completely turned on its head, and it's now a fight for survival? And can they really rebuild and pick up after this conflict is over?
We have been watching what's happening in Gaza, and it is heartbreaking to see how millions of people are getting displaced. And you look at children, you look at girls, and how their lives are impacted. More than 80% of the schools have been damaged. All of the universities have been bombed, and when I picture this, I know that the child in Gaza, a Palestinian child, does not have that normal childhood that every child deserves. They cannot have that education. They cannot play together with their friends. And it's this right to a normal life that every child deserves, whether that child is in Afghanistan or Gaza or any part of the world. My hope is that we continue to push for a ceasefire, an immediate and we prioritize sending humanitarian aid, and we really help shape the future where these children are safe, their schools are not bombed, they're not bombed.
You know, I often hear this idea that there are double standards in terms of the conflict in Ukraine versus what's happening in Gaza, the number of displaced people that are being taken from Ukraine versus those from Afghanistan and Syria, for example. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I think it is a very challenging time because, of course, we know that there are so many crises in the world, in different parts of the world, and from Sudan to Congo to Afghanistan and parts of Pakistan and Gaza and Ukraine. And when you look at that, it is overwhelming. I fully understand that. I think we all have the capacity to have empathy for all of these people who are suffering at the same time. And I think we have the capacity to be providing them the help and the support that they need. So I don't think it should be picking and it should be making these different choices. I think we should have our humanitarian aid and support for everybody, and we should be sharing our solidarity with everyone. This is the message of humanity that we all can convey, and I think this is the true representation of what this human civilization means.
That's Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai speaking to me a little earlier. This is The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Next up, stuck in space. 2 astronauts have an extended stay on the International Space Station, but when and how will they come back down to Earth? Find out in a second.
Three, 2, 1.
We've got an election, haven't we?
We'll start with the rehearsals.
Let's do that again, one more time.
You've got to be the best, but that is quite a lot of pressure.
It's just keeping up with everything.
You don't know what's going to happen day to day.
And being forcibly removed.
You've got to beat your journalistic competition. Every day matters.
That was a very tense interview, and I'm still slightly shaking.
You train hard and you fight easy, and I think that's what we're doing.
Well, over the longer term, 80% of our butterflies are in decline, which obviously means when we have poor springs and, as we're seeing now, a poor summer start, this can exacerbate, this can lead them to be less resilient to these changes in our climate and our weather. So at the moment, we're going through what is known as the June gap, but this is prolonged due to the dull spring and the dull summer weather that we've had so far. As I said, if there were more of them, they'd be a lot more resilient. They can cope with the vagaries of the British weather. However, this year it's a little bit more difficult for them because it's been so wet and so cold. They're they're cold-blooded insects, so they need the warmth from the sunshine to stimulate their muscles, to get them mobile and get them out there feeding and breeding, which is what they should be doing. But when the weather's dull like it is at the moment, they're too busy roosting. It's roosting. They're taking shelter as we do when the weather's poor. So they're taking shelter and they're not feeding and breeding, which will have knock-on effects for the next generation. Well, you wouldn't believe it at the moment, but this is the peak butterfly season. Most species are on the wing at the moment. So species like the peacock, the red admiral, the garden's favourite, the small tortoiseshell. Some of the blues should be around as well. The holly blue, crikey, what's its name? The holly blue and the common blue. They should all be around, zipping around our gardens at the moment, but it's a little bit of a slow start for them. Well, there's lots we can do to improve it. So we can improve our gardens and our allotments and our balcony spaces by establishing what's known as a wild space. It's a campaign that Butterfly Conservation are running. So this involves growing larval food plants, so caterpillar food plants, and providing nectar sources in your garden. They are very, very sensitive indicators of environmental change. So as our climate changes and as our climate warms, the butterflies are moving around as a result of this, and they are known as what's known as indicator species. So they can be indicative of the health of our wider environment.
Welcome back. Now, just because you become Prime Minister and you're at a high-level NATO summit in Washington, it seems that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the football. Have a look at this. Here's Keir Starmer and the Dutch Prime Minister taking some time out of meetings to keep an eye on the score. Just have a look, have a moment. Now, it does seem like England are in front. The current score, 2 for England and the Netherlands 1. And we're in the final 50 seconds now. This is Keir Starmer and the Dutch Prime Minister watching the match a little earlier. We've got about 50 seconds left of this game. England versus the Netherlands, and England are in front. This is Wembley Stadium. You can see everyone. This is Wembley Boxpark in North London, and England are currently in front with only a few seconds to go. So very, very excited English fans waiting for this game between the Netherlands and England to end, because, as we said, the score is 2-1. England are currently in front. So countdown over the next few seconds, as we do expect England to come out on top of this and the winner will face Spain in the finals in Berlin. So English fans, they're very, very excited. Well, it's full time now. So you can see there, breaking news, England are through. Let's go straight to Jackie, who is in Dortmund for us. Jackie, so much excitement.
My goodness, they left that late, and just as they have done all of this tournament, a moment of magic, individual magic, has made all the difference. In the end, England 2-1 winners, but my goodness, they made everybody sweat for that. It was the super sub, Ollie Watkins, who came on in the 81st minute. There was a double substitution. Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins came on. Phil Foden went off and Harry Kane. Phil Foden had been one of the players of the match until that point, so everyone thought, why has he done that? Why has Southgate done that? And up pops Ollie Watkins on 91 minutes and puts the ball away with an absolutely fantastic goal. And England are through, breaking so many Dutch hearts here tonight. The England fans were louder. There were less of them, but they were louder, and they have got plenty to sing about now. You can probably hear them behind me, actually, in full voice. They are absolutely thrilled with that performance. The first half by England was far and away their best performance of these championships. They had more zip, more determination, more purpose. They made a bad start going behind on 7 minutes, and then they just took control of the match. They took control of the midfield. They were kind of bamboozling the Dutch all over the park. They had 7 shots on target. In the end, Kane had a couple of shots and connected with the studs of Denzel Dumfries. A penalty was given after consultation with VAR, and he slotted it home, making him the highest scorer in Euros knockout game history with 6 goals, 3 for the tournament. But the second half was really bad for England. Everything was much slower. The Dutch seemed to sort of get a grip on the match. There were no shots on target, and then suddenly up pops that brilliant double substitution, and finally the winning goal with no time left for the Dutch to come back into it. Let's go to Rob Harris. He is just outside the stadium with those singing England fans. Rob, what an amazing result again. Just a piece of genius.
What a moment for England in yet another Euros final. I've just come out of the stadium, and there was none of the anguish of extra time this time. England managing to pull it off in the 90th minute with Ollie Watkins, the super sub, ensuring England's passage through to a final against Spain. And what was perhaps most encouraging is the fact Gareth Southgate had managed to take off Phil Foden and Harry Kane just 10 minutes earlier. He made the decisive changes, and his subs made the impact. The fact we got Ollie Watkins with a moment of brilliance at his first international tournament, scoring his first ever goal at a tournament, and what a moment to do it, to send England into the final in Berlin. It had been a first half of such control and dominance, England's most attacking first half of this tournament, but still it was level. They did have to come back for the 3rd time at this tournament, and they managed to eventually put it into the second half when, despite losing their grip on the game, they managed to find a way to produce the winner. And I've got some of those ecstatic England fans with me now. We've been trying to gather them. You're live on Sky News. How does it feel? England in the final.
Incredible. Yeah. Coming home, isn't it?
What about that moment from Ollie Watkins?
He's a special player. He finds the goal. He knows exactly where it is.
You say Southgate's genius. Some have been questioning him at this tournament.
Yeah, but I mean, now's when it counts. And it's a great sub. He's brought Ollie Watkins and he scored. So.
And how Spain on Sunday?
Well, Spain are a tough opponent for sure. No
fucking
about that, but we can do it.
Apologies if anyone heard any bad language there.
Yeah, no. It's tough to lose a game, isn't it? But I think we're starting to play. We're starting to show the real talent and ability that we have, and really thrilled to see the boys do that.
That was the most attacking performance, perhaps, of this tournament from England.
Most exciting game. And Phil Foden was fantastic as well in the first half. To see him playing his natural game was great.
You're very calm, but this is another Euros final for England. Finals don't come along often for the Three Lions.
No, they don't. No, they don't. We'll take advantage of this time. We'll make the most of this one. But we do have an 8.5 hour drive home.
Well, enjoy the rest of the time. Hope you're here in Germany.
So much.
Well, the ecstatic England fans reacting to the Three Lions into a second consecutive Euros final, hoping to right the wrongs of 3 years ago when they lost to Italy, dreaming of finally winning a trophy overseas.
Rob, Absolutely brilliant scenes there. We're looking at the pictures from Boxpark, but let's go to Siobhan Robbins, who's in the city centre here in Dortmund, and see the reaction there. Siobhan.
Well, Jackie, you know it was a sea of orange behind me earlier. Well, it was emptied out so quickly. The thousands of Netherlands fans absolutely gutted. But I've managed to find some of the England fans that are in the crowd, and it's a different for you, isn't it, Darren? How are you feeling?
I'm absolutely buzzing. That was just immense, especially the last minutes. I was so nervous. I was thinking it's going to get extra time, and then, but so relieved and so ecstatic. Just can't wait for the final now. It's coming home.
Did you feel like there was a different energy today?
Yeah, it was a lot better. We was playing more as a team. We was going forward a lot more. It's not just always backwards, which was a lot better. And we seem to have got a bit more better rhythm. It's a more better England squad today that turned up. And I just hope they can get that real more balance and then go into the final and take that with them. And
you were England fans actually inside here. What was the atmosphere like? What have people been like as they've been leaving for you?
The Netherlands fans have been amazing. I mean, they've been partying, they've been joining in with us, and they've been coming up to my daughter as well and just been really friendly with us. It's been an amazing atmosphere. And yeah, just really friendly. It's been amazing. I mean, it's a shame that was only like 10 of us here. All the rest are at the pubs or at the stadium. But it was an amazing atmosphere.
I just want to show your little supporter here. Hello. Did you enjoy the football? A little bit shy. Shy. Daddy's got all of the excitement. So what about next? Are you going to go to Berlin? What's the plan?
I hope we're going to go to Berlin. I mean, I actually live in Germany myself now for the last 2 years. We're down in Bavaria. So it's a bit of a trek, but I hope we'll go to the final and we'll go see that too.
Well, enjoy the rest of the celebration.
Thank you very much.
We're going to dash over because we've got some more fans here. Hello.
Hello.
Now, Sam and Louis.
Louis,
sorry. Too much excitement for me too. How was that last?
Oh my God! I've never experienced an atmosphere like it. It was honestly incredible, and it was just a huge sigh of relief that we're actually, because we've got tickets booked for Berlin. So
Have you?
So it was. We were praying that England would turn up, and they finally did, and it was just amazing. And to see Southgate's subs finally pay off, having Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins come on and combine for the goal, I was in dreamland.
What do you think was different this time? It seemed like a different energy.
I don't know. They finally turned up for once. I think scoring that late goal against, was it Slovakia?
Yeah.
Scoring that late goal against Slovakia, we just turned it on in the season.
And Switzerland.
The thing I rate Southgate, he keeps the team together no matter what. So like, he's made good subs today, but there seems to be like an energy, and I think we can win it. Like, it's a final, anything can happen.
I think also the pressure from the media has like finally got onto the players, and they finally like understand. England fans are only getting annoyed because we know how good they can be, and I think they're finally understanding that they can be that good, and as shown today that they were.
They've already made history now with this. Do you think that they can go all the way, that England's 3 Lions can end the 58 years of hurt?
I think so. I mean, I love script writing in the football, like having every like small little detail aligning, and I think the fact that it's the first ever final on European soil that isn't the UK's, I think is massive, and it'll be a great way to bounce back from Wembley in 2021 in the Euros.
Spain looks strong though.
Spain do look strong, but I think
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully.
Yeah. Boys, thank you so much. Thanks for speaking. So you can see, really excited, getting ready for the next step.
You're watching Sky News at 10 from Dortmund on an incredible night for England when they qualified for their second European Championship final in succession. Well, England's chances of seeing Sunday's final were at risk as early as the 6th minute when Dutch midfielder Xavi Simons scored his thunderbolt goal from outside the box. But the 3 Lions' luck turned around after captain Harry Kane was fouled in the box, resulting in a penalty, which Kane converted for Southgate's side in the 18th minute. But then England's moments of glory came in the form of a 91st minute goal from super sub Ollie Watkins, securing the 3 Lions' first major tournament final on foreign soil. And in the last few minutes, the King has released this statement. My wife and I join all our family in wishing you the warmest congratulations on reaching the final of the UEFA European Championship and in sending our very best wishes for Sunday's match. If I may encourage you to secure victory before the need for any last-minute wonder goals or another penalties drama, I am sure the stresses on the nation's collective heart rate and blood pressure would be greatly alleviated. Good luck, England. Charles R. Bit of fun there from the King. Well, Sky Sports correspondent Rob Harris joins me now. My goodness, they left it late again and again. It was just, well, there were two moments of genius there, really. The genius substitution that everyone was questioning and the genius goal, Rob.
Yeah, everyone thinks they can do a better job than Gareth Southgate, questioning throughout this tournament, but he has now led England into 2 finals, which is something that no predecessor has managed before. It was tense, it was tough at times, they fell behind so early on, but then Harry Kane managed to rescue things from the penalty spot, and they didn't even need Harry Kane, just like against Switzerland the other day. He was off the pitch by the time Ollie Watkins produced his moment of brilliance, and what a moment for him, scoring his first tournament goal at the most important time in the 90th minute to secure the 2-1 win. He was someone playing in the lower leagues a few years ago. He's made the climb right the way through up the divisions and into the biggest stage of them all at the European Championships, and now part of a squad preparing for Berlin to face Spain in the final. It will be another test. Some have said that England under Gareth Southgate have had easy routes through to in competitions, but this is beating a Netherlands side that are ranked only 2 places below them in the world rankings. So a really tough opponent that they have managed to overcome, and a moment again to reflect on Gareth Southgate, really going down as one of the greatest managers of the England team of all time. Of course, he doesn't have the trophy like Sir Alf Ramsey or like Serena Beaton with the Lionesses, but these fans are genuinely believing in Gareth Southgate. And I've got a couple of fans with me now. You're live on Sky News.
Hi.
Another Euros final. How are you feeling?
Very excited, and against Spain, I think it'll be an excellent final.
What was it like? You didn't have to endure extra time this time.
I was never in any doubt about the result.
Come on, Watkins! It's late at night, so we're delighted we haven't had to stay an extra half an hour, so to get that goal in at the end was fantastic.
What about that squad depth? The fact didn't need Harry Kane, Watkins coming on.
Oh, we needed the youth, definitely needed them at the end.
Yeah, well, it obviously paid off, didn't it, in the end, Watkins coming on, but...
And we've all grown up with other countries having this sort of dominance at tournaments. Now England in yet another final, 3 semi-finals under Southgate, 2 finals. How does it feel to be an England fan tonight?
Fantastic, we're staying now, we're off to Berlin.
Well, enjoy Berlin, hopefully. They're absolutely ecstatic. These moments don't come along very often, do they? England in a final, but Gareth Southgate has managed to produce 2 of them in 3 years. And of course, now the mission for the 3 Lions, do what the Lionesses managed to a couple of years ago by becoming European champions for the first time.
Well, that would be unfinished business, wouldn't it, for Gareth Southgate? Thank you very much indeed. For now, Rob, we'll let you go and mingle with the fans. Let's go now to Tom Parmenter, who's been watching that match with some fans in Manchester. Almost 17 million people back home watching England beat Switzerland, and even more will have watched tonight. Tom, I mean, they left it late. It wasn't great in the second half. It was rather nerve-shredding to be watching it in there, I can tell you. The first half was brilliant, though. There were so many chances, and you would have to say, on balance, England were the better team. What's the consensus there?
Well, it's bedlam. As you might expect, this is a scene repeated up and down England right now. This is why they come together in such big numbers. This is why they get together in a hope and expectation, just in case England manage to pull it off, and they've just done it. It was quite a set thing. It looked like it was going to be extra time, but Ollie Watkins coming off the bench, and it's all immediately transformed into a national hero. This is what he has done. 2,000 people, very sweaty, but absolutely loving it. Let's have a quick chat with the MC tonight, Alan Keegan, the voice of Old Trafford. Normally you're doing announcing at Manchester United, but tonight You're here leading the England fan club.
It's been absolutely brilliant. As you say, it's all about England tonight. We've done it. We've got to another final, and we're here in the heart of Manchester. The atmosphere, Tom, has been incredible, as you can see and as you can feel, and it's coming home.
Was there ever any doubt tonight? Because this looked like a different England team.
Very different, Tom, and of course the approach, it was more attacking in the first half. Second half was strategy, but at the end of the day, the boys did it, and that's all that matters. And of course, it's all about England. Bring it on Sunday. We can do it.
We can do it. That is the view from Manchester tonight. They are absolutely loving it. We're covered in beer. There's a lot of sweat and noise, and this is going to go on probably for hours.
I'm absolutely certain that you are covered in beer. We can confirm that the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, watched that match tonight in Washington, and he has confirmed that he will be attending Sunday's final against Spain, England-Spain, in Berlin on Sunday. And this was him celebrating one of England's goals. Great. I think we can go back to Manchester now and rejoin Tom Parmenter. Tom, if you're watching there with fans of Manchester United and Manchester City, they must have been so proud of watching their players out there tonight, especially Kobbie Mainoo, who was absolutely sensational in that first half. And nobody would believe watching him. He's just 18 years old and has so very little experience at this level, but he was turning the Dutch inside out.
Yeah, there was a lot of love in this place for the players from Manchester. Phil Foden, who of course had such a good first half, so unlucky not to score himself. As you say, Kobbie Mainoo in the middle of the park, Manchester United teenager, just showing on the biggest international stage just what he is about. And Cole Palmer, another big cheer as he came on to make it an unforgettable night really for England fans. They believe that Southgate got it right. They can see that tonight, and the team are peaking just at the right part of this tournament.
OK, Tom, we'll leave you there just for a second because you're breaking up just a little bit. We can still hear the singing behind us at the BVB Stadium. The England fans, no doubt, will be staying in that stand. It was all white down one end. We'll be staying in that stand as long as possible, just drinking this moment in, because that second half was very, very nerve-wracking for those fans. It wasn't England. It looked like the Dutch were more likely to score. And in the end, 91st minute, Ollie Watkins, absolutely brilliant moment for him, brilliant moment for England, Southgate and the whole team. Absolutely sensational last-minute victory. Let's go to Matthew Thompson now. He's been watching at the Boxpark at Wembley. And Matthew, I expect you've been covered in beer as well when that last-minute goal went in, and it was almost what it was, against the run of play. Brilliant moment for England fans.
I don't think there's a single person in here, and that's about 1,200 people, if not more, who isn't covered in beer. It's quite extraordinary. It was a wall of beer. Twice, in fact, when that goal from Ollie Watkins went in, as you're right to say, almost against the run of play, and then a second time when the final whistle finally went, it just hit the roof, quite literally. The beer was everywhere. We're actually standing on a balcony overlooking the crowd. You might be able to see behind me. And still the beer reached us. So it was really quite something. And still hundreds of people singing into the night. It has been bedlam here for the last half an hour. But look, you don't want to hear any more from some Irish bloke. Let's go and speak to some actual England fans. And look, I've found some England fans who happen to be standing right here. What a coincidence. Guys, put that into words.
Incredible.
Oh, amazing. We've done the final. It's coming home this time, hopefully.
Brilliant performance. Much bad. I saw you on the phone there. Are you already booking tickets?
I'm going to be on that portal all day tomorrow and the next day. I want to go out to Berlin.
It's the cliche in football, isn't it? There's a game of
Yeah.
Second half.
We got battered.
You're losing your belief slightly.
We got nervous. Yeah, I got nervous. I thought I'd bring on Tony saying what, because I thought he was going for penalties. Then Watkins was quality. It was brilliant, yeah.
And almost, Ollie Watkins' goal was almost against the run of play, right? Like it was...
Yeah,
I was thinking extra time, penalties, here we go again.
That's what I thought, yeah.
It was incredible.
Quality goal, quality touch, quality goal.
You nerves couldn't handle penalties.
We did it last time, I think we can do it again.
Well, that's it, you've got belief in the penalty taker.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you got belief that
Yeah.
they can actually go
Oh,
all the
will
way?
be Spain. Don't do Doug team will be.
Coming home again.
Is it coming out?
Oh, it's coming out. Always coming out.
Hopefully, yeah.
Guys, thank you very much.
Cheers,
There you have it. Everyone here is now fairly convinced it's coming home. You don't have long to wait to find out.
Matthew, thank you. I can hear behind you the tribute song to Gareth Southgate, Atomic Kitten, and he's endured so much criticism at this tournament for the way he set out his team, the way they have played, but that has all been forgotten tonight. They were brilliant in the first half, England. They had 7 shots at goal. They were full of zip and purpose. They went behind in the match, but after that, it was all England in the first half, and they would have been kicking themselves if they hadn't won this match because they had so many chances to wrap it up in the first half. They didn't, but there were some brilliant individual performances out there from Phil Foden, but ironically he was one of the players that was substituted late on as they brought on Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins, and it was Ollie Watkins, the Villa man, in his first major tournament, who struck the winning goal for England to make it 2-1 in the 91st minute against the run of play when the Dutch had completely slowed things down and turned things in their favour. If anybody looked like scoring, it was the Netherlands at that point. But somehow, some way, England have made it into the final again at the Euros, their first major final on foreign soil, and it will be on Sunday against Spain in Berlin. Let's go to our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, who is in Dortmund, in central Dortmund tonight. Siobhan, I don't know if you can hear me because I am sure the celebrations are quite loud around you. I know there were more Dutch fans there earlier, but I'm sure you found some white shirts now.
Well, we've spoken to the white shirts, but I have to say the fan zone has cleared out because the majority of people here were Dutch. But as you said, I found one of the last Dutchmen standing. How was that for you, Matthias?
I mean, we enjoyed the ride. I mean, as a small country, we love football and we love like being fanatic in sports. And coming here with all these people, I mean, we're in a small country, and being here and seeing a lot of people here celebrating our Dutch team.
You put up a good fight as well. Do you feel proud?
I feel proud, and I mean, we're just a small country, but I've been here since 10 in the morning and seen so many people, and then you realize like we're a small country but still have a big influence in the football game. And I mean,
what's the atmosphere been like here as well?
It was a good party. It was a good party. I mean, as you maybe see, I've had a good night.
And what happens now? Obviously, will you be drowning your sorrows? Will you be carrying on the party for what you've done so well?
Well, of course, like I take the loss as a man, and the best team wins, and we'll just celebrate that we came so far, and we're gonna make it a party anyway.
Brilliant.
I mean, we're Dutch, and I'm proud.
Well done. Thank you. Good, great attitude. Thank you so much. So you can see, sad but also proud. We're going to go out and see if we can find some more England fans, but the fan zone has cleared out because earlier today it was tens of thousands of orange shirts on the streets. They aren't celebrating tonight, but they are still proud, it seems.
Siobhan, well, that fan park cleared out pretty quickly. I mean, that is an absolute miracle because that was full of 6,500 people earlier on, and they were all orange shirts, and no wonder she couldn't find a white shirt in there. They've probably decanted to the pubs or somewhere close by right now to celebrate that brilliant win by England tonight. 2-1 it finished here in Dortmund. The England fans completely outnumbered by the orange wall of Dutch fans, but they kept them pretty quiet for the entire first half. And here's how the match unfolded. It was a bad start by England. Very quickly, the Dutch going into the lead, scoring on 7 minutes. It was Xabi Simons who got the goal. He got the better of Declan Rice for that goal. But from that point on, it was all England. They had 65% possession in that first half. There were 2 shots by Harry Kane. One of them, he ended up almost injuring himself because he connected with the upended studs of Denzel Dumfries. And VAR looked at that and the penalty was given. Kane stepped up and in the 17th minute slotted home the goal in the bottom left-hand corner, and it was 1-1. It was his 6th goal in the knockout stages of the Euros, which gives him the record of the most goals scored in the knockout phase, and the 3rd goal in total at these Euros, which is incredible when you consider that, you know, most people consider he's had a very quiet tournament. Phil Foden had a new lease of life tonight. He was absolutely on fire, creating. He almost had a goal. It was almost over the line, just inches short when it was cleared off the line. And then he hit the post, which would have been the most incredible goal if he got that in the first half as well. Kobbie Mainoo was brilliant, and there's a real feeling that he has come of age tonight, the Manchester United player, who's so very inexperienced. He's just 18 years of age, and he was great, absolutely fantastic for England. Luke Shaw came on at half-time, Kieran Trippier went off, Foden and Kane went off, Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins came on, and you felt in the second half it was going to be the Dutch that would score first. It was all about them. They'd slowed the game down. They'd taken the sting out of England, who had totally dominated, particularly at the back end of the first half. And it was very much the Dutch in control of the match. And against the run of play, it was super sub. And I think we can have a look at this goal. Ollie Watkins, who had only been on the pitch a few moments, he had 2 passes. He had only touched the ball 4 times. When he did that, I mean, what a moment for the young Villa player. He will never forget the feeling. He probably doesn't even remember it, but it was instinct. And again, it was a moment of brilliance, a single moment of brilliance by England that have won it right at the death. They are into the final on Sunday. They're going to have to look at that second half. They really are, because they cannot play like that again and hope to get away with it against Spain. And they will want to come away with this trophy. It is unfinished business for Gareth Southgate. He wants a trophy before he finishes his tenure as England boss. And after tonight, I think most people would think that he is the least he deserves with this brilliant crop of players. Let's go back to Rob. And Rob, I bet those England fans around you can't quite believe what's unfolded at the end there.
They're all just saying it's coming home, and the name perhaps we never imagined would be
England.
The hero, Ollie Watkins.
England.
The fact it came off the bench and made that impact. Ollie Watkins. Are you confident it's coming home?
He is talking in the press conference now. Let's join it.
Just as you had a ball played in short to you and he came through the back of you, I mean, was it pure instinct, or did you have an idea about what you wanted to do when that ball came into you?
Sorry, you said he kicked me. Oh,
First interaction with him.
oh yeah. The ball's come into me. Obviously, that's not the strongest side of my game, the hold-up play. But the goal is, that's my bread and butter, running in behind and causing the defence trouble. I said to Cole that he was we were both going to go on the pitch and he was going to set me up at half-time, and it happened. I manifested it, and as soon as he turned, I knew to make the move, and you don't get that opportunity very often, so I had to be greedy. I had to take it, and I've just seen it go into the bottom corner. I don't think I've hit a ball that sweet before, obviously in such a special moment as well.
Okay, Henry, second row, white shirt. Thank you.
Hi, Ollie. Congratulations, Henry Winter, World Soccer. When you were at Weston-super-Mare on loan, did you ever lose your dream that things like this might happen to you?
No, I never thought I'd be playing in the Euros for England. Obviously, you can dream, but I'm a realist. I just take day by day, one step at a time, and I was just focusing on getting back into the first team at Exeter. So yeah, I've not thought about that, but you know, I've put in a lot of hard work to get to this point. It's not just this season; it's a cumulative, and I've worked hard to get to this point, and I'm going to enjoy every moment. Just in there.
Ollie, Egil from Norwegian NRK. I understand that you had the conversation with Cole Palmer before the match that kind of went through with the assist. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, to be honest, recently I've obviously got a little bit frustrated. I don't like to be on the bench. I've had the best season of my career, and I've had a few messages from my friends just saying, be patient, you're going to get an opportunity, and they feel like I've got a big part to play in the tournament. And the amount of people that have messaged me today saying I'm going to score tonight when I come on is ridiculous, and obviously they put it out into the universe, so hopefully they can do the same for the final, or even give me the lottery numbers.
Ali, how many times as a kid have you dreamed about doing something like that for England, and also can you do it in the final for us now?
I didn't dream about that, to be honest. Yeah, I can't lie to you and say I've dreamed about that. Obviously, scoring for England is amazing, but I didn't think I'd be doing it in a tournament like that. But don't get me wrong, when I've been on the bench, I've definitely said to Dean Henderson, I can make a difference today. I need to get on that pitch, and yeah, obviously I've taken the chance and taken my chance when I got it and scored, and yeah, now we're in the final, and one last game.
Okay, last one here. Thanks.
Hi Ollie, just looking ahead to the final now, what do you expect from Spain now to go one more?
As you've seen, Spain are a great footballing team. So many good players, a lot of squad depth like ourselves, experience. So yeah, it's the most important game of our lives. But look, we are fully focused on that. But just going to try and enjoy tonight, and then tomorrow we focus on Spain.
Okay, congrats again, Ollie, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
So Ollie Watkins, who was named man of the match after that brilliant last-minute strike that's won the match for England tonight against the Netherlands in Dortmund and put them into that final on Sunday. He said, I don't like to be on the bench. I've been frustrated, but my friend said, be patient, you'll have your moment. Loads of people texted me saying, today you'll score. They should put the lottery numbers up this weekend. He said, you can dream, but I never thought I'd have this moment. When I started out, I put in a lot of hard work, and I'm going to enjoy every moment. And that press conference, quite short, because obviously he wants to go back to the dressing room and enjoy this moment with the rest of his teammates. He also said, I always feel like I make a difference. I've taken my chance when I've got it, and he certainly did. I mean, he literally had 4 touches of the ball, and one of them is the winning strike. Let's go back to Rob Harris, who is just outside the stadium. He's surrounded by England fans. And Rob, I'm sure they just want him knighted now, don't they? And Gareth Southgate. They are delirious, I can see.
Yeah, these England fans certainly enjoying themselves. Finally getting to see the 3 lines in a final on Sunday. And they're singing all the way to Berlin. And it's where they always thought this 3 lines team could reach. Perhaps it wouldn't have been Ollie Watkins they imagined it to sing about. But what a journey it's been for him. And for Gareth. England fans dream of seeing
that is obviously was going to be very difficult and always going to be a bit of a challenge with all those England fans super excited to get through, and I'm sure a lot of them were quite quiet there towards the end of that match thinking this is not going to go our way. We had all those chances in the first half, we should have taken one of them and then we would have been home and hosed, and instead it was the Dutch who took control in that second half until that brilliant double substitution. And people around me were saying, why is he taking Phil Foden off? Phil Foden was one of our best players, if not the best player, and he's taken him off and he's put on Ollie Watkins and Cole Palmer. Well, in those last remaining minutes, those few minutes those 2 players had to make a difference, they did make a difference. Cole Palmer went close and he pretty much set up the goal as well. It was a brilliant strike by Ollie Watkins, the Villa player, who said, you know, I knew I'd get a chance, and I would take my chance if I got the chance. He was named man of the match. He's just given a press conference. He said Spain are a great team, so many good players, a lot of squad depth, experience. It's the most important game of our lives, but we will enjoy tonight and then focus on Spain. And he did also say, I always feel I can make a difference. I've taken my chance when I have got it. So what a result tonight for England. So much criticism in the lead up to this. So much criticism of Gareth Southgate, of his tactics, the way the team were playing, how they were very flat, how he had so much talent and they just weren't showing it on the pitch. Well, in the first half tonight, they did show it. They were brilliant. They were turning the Dutch inside out. They got pegged back in the second half. But when it really mattered, when they really needed it, as has happened in the rest of this tournament, there was a moment of individual brilliance that has won it for England in the end, and they are into their first major final on foreign soil. Anna.
Yeah, we're in shock. Jackie, thank you very much indeed. Extraordinary stuff, certainly. Thank you very much indeed. Jackie live for us there in Dortmund. No doubt heading to Berlin, like everyone else, it seems. We'll come on to that in a moment. Well, that was Sky News at 10, dominated, of course, by that Euro semi-final. Coming up next, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview tonight, joined by the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott, dominated by the football, of course. The Metro kicking off already, getting in early. Never in doubt. The headline, Netherlands 1, England 2. Back in a moment. Well, you're watching Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, our top stories, the breaking news from this evening. England through to the Euro 2024 final after a last-minute goal from striker Ollie Watkins in their nail-biting match against the Netherlands. Also in the news tonight, police have located 26-year-old Kyle Clifford, who's wanted in connection with the deaths of 3 women killed in a suspected crossbow attack. And George Clooney has added his voice to those concerned about the health of Joe Biden and said the US president should not seek re-election. He, of course, at the NATO summit in Washington. Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages. Time to see what's making the headlines. No guesses. With the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kev Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott, with us from now until just before midnight. And obviously, some of the papers will be a little bit late. Let's see how we get on, shall we? So let's start with the front pages we have in. Never in doubt, England through to the Euros final and making the front page of the Metro. Financial Times reporting that the former US House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, has failed to categorically back Joe Biden remaining in the presidential race, with the actor and key Democratic donor, George Clooney, saying he should drop out altogether. And the Eye says water firms have been told they will be forced to return money that isn't spent on upgrading their sewage networks to customers. Don't forget, scan the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme. You can check out the front pages as they arrive, literally, and watch our guests as well. So let's talk to Kevin and to Claire. Claire, when is the deadline for newspapers and how quickly do they change their front pages?
Well, I think we go to press about 9:45.
Oh, dear.
So they will have hung on for the bitter end. So I'd imagine, you know, we're going to see them soon, but we're one of the later deadlines in the industry, so a lot of the other papers go a lot earlier. The FT, for instance, goes at about 6:30, so
wow,
they won't be covering any football news.
Well, let's go to the Metro, shall we, which does go on it. Anyway, Kevin.
They did in their first edition, so some people, when they're picking up their free paper on a bus or a station tomorrow, won't get that. Their first edition was the terrible crossbow deaths in Bushey, in Hertfordshire, but which of course is a very significant story. And you've got to make that judgment. What do you lead on? And because this is later, people will have watched everything about the crossbow death on TV, heard it on the radio, seen it on news websites, while this has happened nearer 10 o'clock, so it's fresher. And there's also something about it being uplifting and people celebrating and looking forward. And so they've changed it to Never in Doubt, which is quite a nice little
headline, yeah.
Yeah, they do it pretty well, but they may well have had 2 results ready. That's what you tend to do in a paper. You have a win and a defeat, and because there was going to be an outcome, and so when the event happens, you just press the button and off you go.
Yeah, exactly.
You just put the score in. And
we've heard from Ollie Watkins, haven't we? Man of the match, the late goal, which we'll talk about in a moment. Just to give you a heads up too, we are expecting to hear from Gareth Southgate, England manager, and plenty of questions about him, possibly no more. And we'll certainly take you to that as soon as he appears. We all want to hear, you know, because when he made substitutes, taking Kane off and Foden off, we're sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure about that. And then here we go.
Oh, he's triumphed again. This is the second successive Euro final. It's first abroad for England, the World Cup. He's had a semi-final and a quarter-final. Easily the most successful manager since Alf Ramsey. I do wonder what those idiots who are throwing beer cups at him now think, or those who are giving him real abuse. I think a bit of a booing in criticism in the earlier performances is perfectly legitimate as a fan, but some of the abuse went over the top. Others just never liked him because he wasn't a Neanderthal. They'd accuse him of being too woke. In fact, actually, he's motivating a very diverse team that represents modern, the best of Britain. But he'll play it down, won't he? He will. But what a career as a manager when in Euro '96.